Hello and welcome to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. My name is Chanel Bunger, and today I'm excited to speak with our regular guest, Matt Wolf of RSM, who joins us weekly to share an update on economic trends he's keeping an eye on and a bit more. Matt, thank you as always for joining me. Why don't you take it away and tell us about some of the things that you're seeing out there?
Yeah, thanks, Chanel. I think, one of the interesting economic data points that we spend a lot of time looking at is productivity. And we've been looking a lot at it, especially with sort of lowering of interest rates and the Fed's sort of perhaps tacit acknowledgement or implicit acknowledgement of getting close to price stability, focusing on the labor market and trying to understand, like, what does that mean from a productivity perspective? Right? Sort of total factor productivity, other measurements of productivity gains that we're seeing, allowing workers and allowing employees, labor, both labor and capital, to do more with less. And that's really ultimately the sustaining driver of economic expansion in real terms, right? We need to drive productivity to see an actual real adjusted for inflation increase in GDP, in growth, which, that's the rising tide that lifts all boats, right? Whether you're a private equity sponsor, LP investor, management team, or, other, whatever, it doesn't matter. So, and as we kind of go back and dissect this data, one of the things that just keeps sticking out to me is how we've seen strong gains in productivity that will continue to underscore a strong sort of post-pandemic recovery, strong economic growth. But what's missing from the productivity numbers is a lot of this, sort of generative AI tools that are taking up a lot of sort of bandwidth and sort of the financial and other press, right? And I think a lot of executives are talking about that. They're doing use cases, they're planning out strategies around data, around how to leverage some of these tools and investments, whether they're private equity backed or not, or even the funds themselves, right? The sponsors themselves are looking at how they can use these technologies to improve their own productivity. So we spend a lot of time talking about it and analyzing it and comparing solutions. But right now, those gains are missing from the productivity data, or largely missing from the productivity data, because they're not widespread. And over time, they will become widespread. And this will supercharge productivity in general in a way that we think will contribute to real GDP growth. And that's I think really exciting. I'll give kind of one tidbit from a healthcare perspective, because that's sort of the ecosystem and industry that I cover most closely. IDC estimates that these generative AI tools will free up 10% of clinical time in 2025. 10%. That's insane for an industry that has such a severe shortage of clinical talent. To free up even 5% of their time over the course of a year, that is like a breakneck speed of innovation in healthcare, first of all. And second of all, that's an incredibly meaningful increase in productivity. And that's just next year. We'll see other use cases. Maybe, healthcare has a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of increasing productivity, certainly. But we'll see this across ecosystems. And I think sponsors and management teams that are able to kind of do the proper diligence on these solutions and say, okay, will this solution create or destroy enterprise value? That's going to be an incredibly critical skill for sponsors, for management teams, for any sort of leader or analyst to understand is, will this investment in this technology create value for my enterprise, yes or no? Yeah, maybe broad strokes, these technologies will drive top level GDP and rise the tide. But when we're looking at a micro level of, is this thing going to be good for my business or not? That's a skill that will take some developing. We haven't really had to look at these types of investments in this way over the past 15 years because money was cheap, right? We could make mistakes, right? Fail fast, fail often. And that's sort of still true, but we really need to make sure that as we get excited about these investment opportunities, these new technologies, these new tools, we have to really make sure that we understand the situations in which that tool will create enterprise value and the situations in which it will destroy enterprise value. And the teams that can differentiate between those two, I think, are going to be the real winners in the next cycle.
Perfect. Well, Matt, I want to thank you as always for keeping us updated and for sharing your insights on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.